Thank you very much for joining me today. Perhaps you could introduce yourselves.
I'm Mark Breen from Safe Events Global.
I'm Rupert Crayston from Goodwood.
Lovely, thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps you could tell us about an event you've been involved in which has been affected by extreme weather conditions. Perhaps I'll turn to you first, Mark.
You're going to have my PTSD kick in now. We've had a few. I think the one that tends to come to mind when we talk about weather events and postponements is some work we do with Dublin Zoo every year. So they run a show called Wild Lights where we do probably 60 plus nights of shows. We do it on the back end of the year, so it's in winter. So I think we always know going into those shows that you're probably over 60 nights going to have a weather impact on your shows at some stage. The beauty is what tends to happen is if we get high winds or if we get a weather event that means we have to postpone a show or cancel a show, the reality is we've probably got multiple more shows to come in the run. So it's less challenging than it might be in that we're able to say we cancel the Tuesday because there's high winds. And obviously we're in the zoo, so we're dealing with trees, a lot of that kind of foliage and stuff that will be challenging, as well as the elements of structures that we put in, as well as animals. So animals don't like extreme weather in a lot of cases. So even if it's not potentially reaching a structural threshold issue, we might in that instance hit issues where if it gets that windy, our structures are fine, but we know some of the animals will start to be challenging. So that might be the call we make. I think the beauty of it, like I said, is we have loads more events we can facilitate people on. So if we cancel a show, say Tuesday, 5,000 people or so sold out, and we have to say, look, based on weather warnings, we're not going to be able to open tonight. Chances are we have 20, 30, 40 more shows in which we can try and facilitate those 5,000 people. It's much more challenging if it's like a one-off festival weekend or something and you have to make a call like this. So I've been glad in hindsight that it's been that type of show we've had to do it on. But again, when it happens, we've had a situation where we had to cancel one night because of the weather, but actually cancel the following night because of the damage caused by the weather, if that makes sense. So again, in the zoo, some branches come down, they damage a habitat, we have to rehome those animals, we're not going to be ready the following night. So you can have those kind of knock-on effects. And I think the keys to it for us are the planning. We all knew what we would do. We all knew the process. We knew the key stakeholders. We're able to deal with the marketing team and the team in the zoo to get the word out, make that call early enough. I think we talk a lot about making that call early. If you're making it on data, making out information you have, and it's following your plan, we shouldn't be afraid to make the call. We understand it inconveniences people, but at the end of the day, we're there to keep everybody safe.
Rupert, Mark's alluded there to the fact that he's got sort of multiple events that he can replace and sort of people can come back to his event with. Your event was over one of these sort of weekends. Have you got an event that you can perhaps tell us about?
Yeah, so we had the cancellation of the Saturday of the Festival of Speed in 2023. And yeah, it certainly brings back some PTSD as well. But I think we really look back on it with some fond memories of how we managed it, what we did, and all of the work that we put into place on the planning side of it really came through to make those decisions at the time. But we've got an absolutely fantastic team to be able to support and so on. But at the end of the day, it was a £12 million decision, or thereabouts, with a £300 million kind of ongoing issue with from a London Stock Exchange, what that event brings to the local community. So to turn around and cancel the day is a really big thing for us, especially one of our headline events. So the Festival of Speed brings about around 200,000 people down to Goodwood over a 4-day period. And unfortunately, due to strong winds, we had to cancel the Saturday. So we had a really good idea through all of the regular monitoring that this was going to become a problem, and we had our crisis meetings in place in advance, and a lot of the plans that were in place were kicked into action, and we managed to get make the site as safe and as secure as we possibly could do, on the assumption that we might still go ahead, because it was very borderline in terms of the wind levels we were seeing. But after the various meetings and actually seeing all the data that's coming through, we realised that it wasn't going to be safe to occupy that space. And with all the effective comms that went out, we were in a position where we should have had 60,000 people on site. And if we had left it any longer, then we could have had more people. But I think most people in our business here is a success. The comms, the marketing piece around the text and the emails and the social media to stop people from coming to the event on the Saturday. And not only that, to actually manage to get the site safe, secure, to keep the site operating throughout that Saturday, to be able to reopen on the Sunday.
Brilliant, thank you. You've obviously both alluded to planning being a really key part of this. What are the key lessons that you've learned from your experience of weather-related events? Obviously, health and safety is always key. We're always looking to learn what that next new lesson is. What were your takeaways from those?
I think for me, it's always been, we've learned a lot about our teams and our stakeholders and our partners when these things have happened. And sometimes that's just on a human level. You learn how people deal with situations and, whether you'll get support from certain porters or not, or how they view these things. And as Rupert has mentioned, when you're making decisions like this that have tens or hundreds of millions of pounds of an impact, you don't want to be making them lightly, which is why we always talk about the planning thing so important, because you want this all clear. You want people to know how the decision is made, how it's gotten to, what evidence are we gathering, so that the likes of the insurance companies or whoever that needs to review this can review it and be comfortable with the decision that's made. We talk, a lot of the training we do, we talk about what we call the defendable position. And this is all part of it. Everything we do, whether it's months and months of writing plans, whether it's the meetings and minuting them properly, whether it's how we do capacity calculations and that everyone in the company does it the same way, it's the same format. All of these things build that picture that when you have to make those tough calls, that they were made with the right intentions, the right information. And as Rupert said, in your case, that you can look back and go, we did make the right call. All of that is in the planning and the preparation. You should be, I won't say comfortable, but when you're sitting in that seat or when you're on that goal team or when you're involved in making that decision, you should be close to comfortable that you're just following a process. You're following what everyone agreed to do. This is what the information is telling us, and we're going to have to make that call. It doesn't then feel like that massive decision. It feels like the culmination of a process that we've all agreed we're comfortable with, and this is what all signs are pointing to go left. We need to go left. Then it doesn't feel like that big weighty thing on just your shoulders, which without all that planning and without those policies and procedures in place, it can very much feel. And humans being humans, if it feels that way, we're probably slower to do it. Maybe we take too long. Maybe there are impacts on that delay. So you really want the planning, the processes, the procedures to be in place. And to be honest, hope you never need to implement them, but you want to know you have comfort that they're there.
You obviously said, Rupert, that it worked for you, the plans and things worked, but were there any other lessons that you've taken away from that particular event?
Yeah, like Mark said, I think you can see the strength and depth in the team, and you can actually see the qualities that come out of your event control room. It gives me confidence going into, we've got an event this weekend, members meeting, the first event of the year for us, main event of the year. But to know going into the event that we have such strength in the event control room, world-class ESO, world-class medical team, that we gives me loads of confidence. The other thing is you can plan and plan and plan. You can have the best plan in the world, but generally things don't always go to plan. And having the ability to be able to make those tough decisions and with in the right mindset and have the right sort of contingencies based on what's happening around you is really important. So it's the structure that's the key, not necessarily the rule book. It's the structure.
We talk about two things. We talk about people plus process. So you want all those processes in place, and then you want the right people, as Rupert says. So the confidence he now has in his team, perhaps he wishes the incident never happened. But when you come out the far side of it, when in hindsight you think you dealt with it well, and you now have confidence in your team because they've been tested, there is a goodness that comes from that. We'd all probably say, please let it never happen. But if it does happen, there can be good outcomes that come out of it. And if one of them is, my team are solid, I really know they're up to the game out, that's a great place to be.
Your lesson learned is that you have a good team around you and that the plans worked. And, the lesson learned can be a positive one, I guess, is what we can take from that. So what would you say to someone that is considering a career managing health and safety in events? I'm going to go to you first, Rupert.
deciding which avenue you want to go down is a good starting point, because with safety, events, risk management, there's so much that's intertwined in the wider event. You could be focusing on silver commands, you could be focusing on structures, you could be focusing on construction build, you could be focusing on all these, rigging. There's so many different aspects of risk management, safety management within the event site. Just getting a feel for what you enjoy. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I absolutely love it. I think we all do. And I think once you get into events, because my previous life wasn't in events, it was more in sort of major infrastructure. And having moved into events, I think I would find it hard to move back out, because it's just an ever-changing, interesting, dynamic environment to be in.
Yeah, I think Rupert's made a really good point. I know some really good safety people. I don't think they'd be suited to the event world. And similarly, we have really good event safety people, and I think they'd struggle on infrastructure or on trains or whatever. So I think you need to be, we always say that we're event people who do safety. So I think if you are starting from an event background, you'll find that transition to the safety side of it probably quite natural, and that's useful. If you're coming from outside of events, say, from a safety background, looking to do safety in events, I think the main thing to know is that you're going to need to be really adaptable. Because I think if you come into the event world with just that rule book, and maybe you've come from somewhere like infrastructure or something that's really regulated, I think you might struggle. I've seen a lot of people struggle with the event world where it's creative, it's dynamic, we're often just figuring things out. There isn't a rule book for, oh, you want to do that today with that, okay, right. You have to actually figure some stuff out. And what that ultimately means is you're kind of putting your head in a block and going, I, as a safety person, agreed to let that happen. We put these measures in place. We think it will be safe. It is possible something goes wrong. So if you just want to kind of implement rules, events probably aren't for you. If you understand the rules, you understand best practice, but you like challenge and you like having to be dynamic, I think events is probably a good place to be then. I would agree with Rupert. I'm an event person who does safety. I can't imagine myself doing safety in anything else other than events. So I would advise anyone to get into it, but know that you're going to have to be fairly flexible and adaptable. And if you are, you'll really enjoy it.
As they say, I guess that the show must go on, and we're there to facilitate that. So thank you both very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.